given the scenes that we've seen unfold at the Kabul airport, given some of the backlash to the Biden administration, what needs to be the #1 priority for this administration and really global governments as we deal with the fallout of the exit from Afghanistan?
Thanks, Danny. I think on the first point is on the immediate, it's about evacuation. And it's not just evacuation of the Americans or the Brits, but just about every other embassy leaving Kabul. I believe as of this morning, it's only the Russian, the Iranian, and the Chinese embassies that are fully functioning inside of Kabul today. And I think that's a prior of concern, is get everybody onto planes, get them out. And I'm quite sure that there are background negotiations with the Taliban in Doha, but increasingly on the ground to make that happen. On Biden's remark, just two very quick points. One is it's very clear that this administration has a determinant political narrative. They're unwilling to empathize in many ways by way of narrative shaping when it comes to Afghanistan. The second point which Biden made, he said that Afghan leaders have left the country. He's wrong. Dr. Abdullah, Hamid Karzai, the former president, they're inside of Kabul at the moment. They've created something called the Transitional Council. They're trying their best to kind of patch things together and keep some continuity growing. So I would appeal to the international community, certainly to the US government, is that you have high value Afghan leaders inside of Kabul at the moment. Day by day, their lives will be in jeopardy. And that's where the focus needs to be.
Well, we understand that the US are potentially back-channeling with the Taliban in terms of what the new composition of government might look like. I want to understand, Dr. Rudra, and draw on your expertise. Game theory is a critically important part of how and where we end up here. You talk about those countries which are still present and still functioning inside of Afghanistan with a presence. Does that say something about the shaping of the narrative when it comes to the game theory of who the winners in this awful carnage that we're seeing unfold before us?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. I mean, 2 points there. The first is to say is there is now a significant crack between the Taliban in Doha and Taliban on the ground. So when we say that officials are negotiating with the Taliban, what's becoming increasingly unclear every single hour is which Taliban has efficacy on the ground. I can give you innumerable examples of people trying to get out, guarantees that have been provided to them, and then they've been betrayed on the ground with Taliban pickup trucks outside their house. The second point, when it comes to so who's won, who's lost, I think that's a longer drawn question. At the moment, it's very clear that Pakistan believes it has some kind of an advantage. China and Russia, which have spent an incredible political capital in engaging with the Taliban over the last 5 or 6 years, clearly have some guarantees, and they will shape the future government. The only hope is with the international community, they can get the Taliban to actually commit to the promises that they're making in Doha: women's rights, safety, no looting, stability and governance, and most importantly, an inclusive government. That's what the Taliban spokesperson is saying. China and Russia need to hold them to account, just like the UN Security Council did this morning in New York.
How likely is that? Is this Taliban a different one from the one we saw 20 years ago?
It is definitely a very different Taliban. Also, this is a global Taliban. Just be clear, is that when we say the Taliban who are negotiating, we're really only talking about 15 to 20 individuals, largely English-speaking, had their passports stamped with all kinds of visas from Norway to Germany to Doha to the United Kingdom and other such places, right? The key point is, do these 20 individuals who've lived outside of the country for a very long time, will they have any amount of authority when they're actually inside of Afghanistan? And we're seeing a crack in the system. We're seeing Kabul divided now into 4 or 5 different factions. The old Taliban military commission that are the hardened fighters have come into Kabul. We're seeing rumors of the Haqqani network taking certain parts of Kabul. So I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of disintegration, and the guarantees that have been made by the Taliban spokesperson that was sold to Zalmay Khalilzad, that was sold to the Biden administration. We need to do everything possible with Russia and China to make sure that they can, at least to a certain extent, hold up to those guarantees.
Dr. Rudra Chaudhuri, thank you for being with us this morning, Senior Lecturer of the Department of War Studies over at King's College in London.